Hello there everybody, it's Joe here and welcome back to my F1 22 career mode. We are now here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola, round 4 for this season, and for the first time in this career mode we have a sprint weekend. In case you're unfamiliar with what a sprint weekend is, it's the weekend in F1 where we have a sprint race, a race which is a third distance of the actual race. Points for the top 8 are delivered on an 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 basis, and of course the results of the sprint set the grid for the main race, and this qualifying session that sets the grid for the sprint. Right, are we up to speed? Yes, good. Let's get on with this qualifying. Let's try and get ourselves out of Q1, which so far we haven't been able to do, and round here I don't think it's going to be an exception, since I'm struggling with the circuit just a little bit. I did struggle to get up to speed with it in 2021, so I'm expecting a similar struggle. I did improve on my first lap by a few tenths, but in the end it was only good enough for last place. So the AI in qualifying are just ridiculously fast, and I find that we do have better race pace than what we do in quali. So let's use that in the sprint to get us up a few more places.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management, it's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, edging out Max Verstappen, who will start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Perez, Sir Lewis Hamilton and Russell, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Bottas and Lando Norris, Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Daniel Ricciardo and Joe, Vettel, Stroll, Pierre Gasly and Nicholas Latifi, Tsunoda, Ticktum, Albon and Joker. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
Right then, it's the formation lap for my very first F1 sprint in career mode, and I'm really looking forward to this. My plan is to just go all out and see how many positions I can gain and get myself a better position for the start of the race. I was contemplating gambling on the soft tyres, but if they blew up at the end, that would be my entire race screwed, so I wasn't willing to take that gamble and risk messing up my whole weekend. Maybe if we get to a circuit where tyre wear isn't so damning, maybe I would give it a go, but not here, not now. Anyway, we're just lining up on the grid for this sprint race, and as excited as I am nervous because, like I said, one mistake and that'll be where I start the main event. So let's try and gain a few positions, but at the same time, let's not try any over-heroics, otherwise that will compromise the whole thing. Here we go then, 5 red lights, 11 laps. And it's lights out and away we go. We've got a relatively decent start there. Ticktum ahead of us, also getting away quite well. It's Albon though that's really got the best start out of all of us. He's having a look up the inside of turn 1, and you know what? I'm going to take a dive up the inside of turn 1. That was some big heroics there, which I said I wasn't going to try. Someone's gone off into the gravel. Who is it? It's Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton finds himself in the gravel at turn 1. He's able to recover from that. Oh, bang, and there's me banging wheels with Nicholas Latifi. I said I weren't going for some over heroics. That dive down the inside of turn 1 though was something else entirely. But we have gained 3 places up into P19. I'm darting, just seeing if there is a way past Latifi quickly, but there isn't. Latifi closing that off and making sure that there is no way through there. So I'm going to have to just settle in for a minute and have a think about this one. I do feel like the AI are going to get backed up when they go into the chicane after Aqua Minerale. So my plan is to get a run, have a dive on Latifi here, which I do, and I get that position done. Nice editing fail there, Joe. But anyway, we're up into P18, so we've gained 4 places off the first lap, which is very good, but we need to gain more. And next up is our next victim, and that is Pierre Gasly in P17. Having a little look up the inside of the chicane, and we get that one done, despite just a little bit of bullying on our part there. Just a little bit of bullying. I think Gasly did have to kind of jump out of the way a bit, but we got the move done, and that is P17. And Gasly's now got the attentions of the Williams behind him. So the dive that Albon initially took, he got a great start, but he just wasn't able to get anywhere with it. And as a result, he's at the back of the pack. Right, Stroll and Tsunoda are my next victims, but they're starting to pull away from me a bit. And I've got Gasly still right there, waiting to punish me if I put a wheel wrong. So right now it's a case of just settling into this and just waiting for opportunities to come to me maybe a little bit later. But we're really struggling to find those opportunities, and we've got a yellow flag up ahead. I believe that's going to be the Haas of Kevin Magnussen slowing down. And it is the Haas of Kevin Magnussen slowing down. He is out of the race, so unfortunate luck for him. He's going to be starting lower than he'll want now on the main event, as is Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to make his way up, but he's still behind Pierre Gasly and myself, and I'm having to keep an eye out for where Pierre Gasly is. He's right behind me. In fact, he's having a little look around the outside there. He arrived at the braking zone just a little bit too fast and gave me a little bit of a love tap just to let us know we're still friends. But it's still P16 for me, and I think Lewis Hamilton is getting very close to Pierre Gasly. Yes, he is. Lewis is going to go down the inside, and that is a bold one to take around the outside for the next part for Lewis Hamilton, and the absolute GOAT of F1 moves up a place. And if I'm being honest, Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest drivers of all time. I don't believe in calling an overall greatest of all time, because different challenges of different eras and whatnot, but you would be foolish to deny that Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest racing drivers to walk this earth. The things he's achieved are just, they're phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Right, enough gushing, back with the race now, and we're trying to catch Stroll and Tsunoda, but they are kind of long gone at this point. They've checked out. My main priority is trying to keep Lewis Hamilton behind me. We're going to cover him here. Hamilton, nowhere to go. He has another little look up the inside, but he's not quite alongside, so I don't feel bad about turning in, taking the racing line and asserting my position. And what is going on up ahead, because Stroll and Tsunoda, who were a bit further ahead of us, are now suddenly right there. And there's someone heading this pack that's just holding it up a bit. Tsunoda very slow through the chicane, and that's backed me up, and that's backed me up into Hamilton, who's now going to have a look around the outside. Hamilton so far getting it done, but I'm on the inside for the braking zone, and I just shuffle Hamilton back. Well, this is quite a good battle between myself and Hamilton, and I'm going to cover him, but Hamilton's now going to go to the outside, which will become the inside for that right kink. And, well, there was no keeping Hamilton back there. He's got the move done. It's great to say I'm battling Hamilton, but I'm battling him for 16th place. So, not overall great, but now we're going to have a little look up the inside here, because he's got compromised into the chicane by the slow Tsunoda and Stroll, and we were just able to dive up the inside and take that place back. P16 it is then, as we head towards the end of this very first F1 sprint, and I'm really enjoying this sprint experience. We've had a lot of wheel-to-wheel action. We've got Hamilton now on the outside of one, but again I've got the inside, and Hamilton has to just back out for now. And Tsunoda and Stroll are just probably a little too far ahead now to attack. We've got a yellow flag for something behind me. I'm not quite sure what's cracked off there. I'm gutted that I didn't go back and have a look though. And we're going to have a yellow flag here, because it looks like Lance Stroll has put the car round. He has put the car round. Lance Stroll just pushing a little bit too hard to stay with Tsunoda, and you can see the back end just swaps ends with the front, and round it goes, and Stroll's got to recover that, and that of course puts him in a compromising position for the main race. Charles Leclerc in this sprint though, absolutely untroubled. He has got on to win it, but we are going to maintain P15, so we gain 7 places off of what was effectively our grid position for the sprint. So that gives us a better position for the main event. I'm happy with that. I will take it.
Alright, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
Well, it looks like no one was getting anywhere near Charles Leclerc in that race. He just dominated that,
Let's
didn't
review
he?
the driver's
Carlos
standings.
Sainz getting
Max Verstappen
second, a
should
very
be pleased
smooth
with his
drive for the
performance,
smooth
making gains
operator.
at the top of the
Two
table.
Red Bulls
Let's
are
move
third
on to
and
the
fourth.
constructors.
Russell
The
is
lead at the
fifth.
top comes down
Fernando
after a strong
Alonso
weekend
getting a
from the
great
challenging
result
pack.
in
Another
sixth.
team that excelled
And then it's
today was
Bottas
Williams,
and
who
Norris
made further
rounding out the
progress
point
on the
scorers
table.
in the sprint.
The grid is set then,
Schumacher
that
and
just
Zhou
leaves
getting the
race
top
itself.
10.
Join us tomorrow where we'll be live with all
Then
the
it's
action.
Ocon,
Until
Vettel,
then.
Ricciardo, Tsunoda and myself. So, like I said, we gained a few positions in that sprint, and I feel like we do have more opportunities available to us and more that could come to us in the race starting from that position. So 7 places up, I will happily accept that. Hamilton then 16th, and right at the back is going to be Ticktum and Magnussen and Stroll, who had that spin right at the end. Verstappen still leads the championship after the sprint, but Leclerc is hunting that gap down. Right, let's go straight to the main event then.
Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo and Dino Ferrari. The clue is in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Unlike most Formula One tracks, Imola is driven anti-clockwise and offers our drivers today just over 3 miles of glistening wet tarmac to negotiate. It's made up of a roughly equal split of 9 right-hand turns and 10 left-hand. Watch the drivers on the way into turn 16. Managing their speed there will be crucial, with the rain only adding to the difficulty of that downhill braking section, which then, of course, leads them into the track's longest straight, though no DRS there today, of course. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Perez, George Russell and Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Norris, Mick Schumacher and Guan Yu Zhou, Ocon, Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo and Tsunoda, Joker, Hamilton, Nicholas Latifi and Alex Albon. This was the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Joining me on this very wet day is a man who is no stranger to driving in these miserable conditions. Anthony Davidson, you've driven open cockpit, you've driven sports cars. How does the wet weather experience change between different disciplines?
Well, I wouldn't say there's much difference in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in something like sports cars with different categories all sharing the same racetrack, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference is the fact that Formula One is open cockpit. On one hand, they'll be cold and wet without a roof, but on the other, it's much simpler to pull a tear-off away from the visor than it is to clear a dirty windscreen, so I don't think it's too bad.
Right then, who is ready for 32 more laps of this circuit? Certainly not me in these conditions. It is very, very wet, and as you can see, everybody has gone for the full wets. I was contemplating a gamble on intermediates, but I wanted to see for myself what the track conditions were like before making such a gamble. Otherwise, the one thing I don't want to do is take that gamble and go straight off spinning and lose everything that I worked hard for in the sprint race to gain and then end up losing it. Right, we're starting to form up on the grid now, and I haven't actually done a race in the wet yet, so I'm very interested to see how the car feels in the wet, how it handles in the wet, especially with the new handling model and the new cars. So it's a whole learning experience for me now as we slot in on the grid. The last car of Kevin Magnussen is now slotting in. So now it is time to begin this race. 32 laps, changeable conditions. It's lights out and away we go, and I'm feeling the wheel spin instantly off the line there. Lewis Hamilton gets away very well, as does Latifi. I'm covering both the Williams here. Is there going to be space for me to do what I did in the sprint and just send one up the inside? Yes, there is. I'm trying to go down the inside of Hamilton. Hamilton's not having any of it. Hamilton, in fact, has got past me straight away, so down into P16 we are, and Hamilton already going for Ricciardo. He is not messing around in this race, and straight away I'm noticing the differences in how the car handles in the wet as we dive down the inside of Hamilton and Ricciardo there. That's a brave one to attempt. Ricciardo still on the outside though, and instantly got the better traction. So traction is the one thing I'm really struggling with so far in these conditions. It's so much harder to get the traction and speed out of the corners, particularly the slow corners, than it was on previous games. So this is going to take some getting used to. Chasing down Ricciardo, P15. Hamilton's trying to come back at me, but I'm covering him straight off there and trying to get closer to Ricciardo at the same time. These conditions are very, very tough. But as we complete the first lap and go into second, Hamilton's still having another look. I've covered him off, but I've made a mistake, and that's going to allow Hamilton straight through, but I'm going to keep the inside line here and still fight off Hamilton. It's a reprise of the sprint, me and Hamilton fighting each other for position, but unfortunately it's a mid-pack position. Right, I am taking a gamble on intermediates at this point, because I'm feeling like now is the right time to make that gamble. The rain is starting to ease, so let's see if we can gain anything from it. We've had a very slow pit stop though, and the engineer does apologise, but it happens in IRL F1. Unfortunately, I think we may have jumped the gun a lap or two too early, but the AI are now starting to pit, and we haven't really gained from that. And if anything, our slow pit stop has been the thing that has cost us, because we've lost a few positions, particularly here, one to Latifi, so we have lost out from that. So can we gain, or at least try and stay with Latifi here? It's lap 7 now, and more cars are coming out of the pits. There's Dan Tixham, our teammate, and we emerge in P21. So yeah, we've really lost out, and I think I did pit a lap too early, and where I really struggled to get the tyres up to temperature, it kind of affected me and impacted me. So I think the whole thing has had a bit of a knock-on effect. We've got a yellow flag in front of us. Why have we got a yellow flag? There's two cars in the gravel. It's Hamilton and Ricciardo. I did notice those two were close earlier, and that's what's happened there. Hamilton has spun into Ricciardo and taken them both off. So that's extraordinary scenes here, and that for sure is going to be a safety car. That has got to be a safety car. And indeed it is. The safety car leading round once again Charles Leclerc, who's just completely unfazed by all the goings on in this race, leading the way. And Ricciardo and Hamilton pit, as have a couple of others in all that melee. So we're now up into P16, having a look at Nicholas Latifi. We were starting to gain back on him after losing a second or two before the safety car. So let's see if we can get that position on Latifi and maybe get after Alexander Albon too. There are places to be gained here, and the track is starting to dry up nicely, and I'm starting to wonder when we'll be ready for slicks. But my first port of call is to try and get past Latifi down the inside. That is exactly what we've done, and we're now up into P15. Next up is Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda, and let's see what we can do about them. Can we get close to them? We're certainly catching them through that corner. And you know what? I'm actually quite proud of how I took that. Right, the track is starting to dry out, so I'm thinking it's time to gamble for some soft tyres. So let's see if I can make any gains. I may have made the wrong call with the inters, so let's see if this call is any better. We're now leaving the pits after a pretty smooth pit stop. I'm still getting used to the manual pit stop thing, and I'm trying to time it as close to 0 as possible, but both instances there, I've not timed it right. So back out on slicks, and it's just a little bit slippery, but I feel like I can manage this, and the rest of the pack are actually pitting a lap later, so we have made a good decision here. DRS is enabled, so that's a sign that it is time to crossover for slicks, and we have made a couple of gains. We're ahead of Sebastian Vettel and just behind Albon and Perez, so we've maintained P15, and I think we have gained some time here. Right, next up is Tsunoda, Albon and Perez. They're having their own little scrap there, so that could get quite tasty as Perez is having a look. Sebastian Vettel's having a look round my outside. Any reason you're rubbing my car, Seb? Please don't. Also, that's allowed Albon, Perez and Tsunoda to get away. The fact that I've got Vettel fighting me, and we've got Lewis Hamilton pulling over to the side. His race is done, and that just compounds what has been a weekend of misery for the 7-time champion. Right, up against Yuki Tsunoda now. We have DRS. What can we do? Not an awful lot from back here. And also Sebastian Vettel's having a look at me here. What can I do about him? Can I keep him behind? He's going to have a look up the inside. I'm going to give him the space. I've given him the space, and Vettel's just come straight into me. And round it goes. And, well, now they're all going into each other. That's a pile-up. Magnussen is out. Stroll is out. Another car has been removed as well. But Vettel, like, what more could I have done there? I gave him the space, and he still comes across, and I've got nowhere to go. I was trying to hold it out around the outside, and it just didn't work. And then cars are just going into each other. Not more I can do now, though. It is what it is. We've now pitted in for another set of soft tyres. Reason being, I know there's another intermittent shower on the way. And that's another nice touch I've noticed for this game. I've noticed that you can get multiple showers in one race, so that's quite a realistic touch, and the weather can be very changeable. Right, we are racing again here after the second safety car of the day. I'm having a look to try and take Vettel back, but Gasly's having a look up my inside. Look how much room I gave him there. I did not want to risk another incident like that occurring. We're now down to P17. We haven't really lost too many positions because cars went out of the race because of that, thanks to the pile-up that ensued. And now we're having a look at Vettel. Everyone's backing up into the chicane, so you know what I'm going to do here. And I'll be honest, I could have given Vettel more room there, but I was still a little bit seething from what happened, so that was a move. That was personal, that one. We're now back up into P16, trying to get after Ricciardo and Ticktum. And Ticktum, well, he seems to have avoided the trouble, but he's still towards the back of the field. Come on, Dan. This is an opportunity here.
Okay, track conditions
Anyway, seeing if we can stay with Ricciardo, and the rain is starting to fall. What do the AI do? I'm certainly staying out because it's not wet enough yet. But Ricciardo and Ticktum are in the pits, as are a few others, and they're taking on mediums. So that's bizarre when you know you've got a bit of rain coming in and they're all pitting for mediums. You would have thought they'd try and make the softs last, but they haven't. And that has gained us positions there. We are up into P12, and the next lap, more of the same. More AI pit, and as a result, we're now up into P9, into the point-paying position. Vettel, who I tried to cover, just zoomed past me there. He had the DRS, so there weren't an awful lot we could have done about that. But we are going to really fight Gasly off here because I am wanting that P10. I do not want to lose that point position. But look at this, we've given Gasly a little bit of room there, and Gasly has taken it. Gasly knocking us out of the points, but we're going to have another look up the inside of turn 1, and that is that move done. We are back into P10, back into the points, and if I can take a point from this race, I would be over the moon. Right, it's time to pit in for intermediates now, and that is exactly what we're doing, but we've got a sticky front right. Oh, what of all the things that is going on for us in this race. We've had that spin with Vettel, we've made a wrong decision earlier on, and now we've got a sticky front right. But we are back in the pack now, and we are in P14 with other cars still needing to pit, so not the end of the world just yet. Catching up to Sebastian Vettel, who actually pitted and has taken on mediums. Sebastian Vettel legitimately there, pitting in on the lap I did and taking on mediums. You can see there. That is just the complete wrong decision.
Okay, conditions.
More AI cars ahead of us are now pitting in. Are they taking on the wet? No, they're going on to mediums too. What are they doing? They're just ruining their own races. I moved up to P9 because of this. I'm not ungrateful or anything. I'm really glad to be in that position, but the AI cars have just pitted in for mediums on a wet track. What are you guys doing? That is an extremely bizarre call for them to make. There's a yellow flag, and that is Max Verstappen coming to a halt, so his day is done. But what this has essentially done is guarantee me in P9 and guarantee that no one is going to challenge me. And at that point, I could have pushed a lot harder than I did. I ended up getting a track limits warning because I went a bit wide, but the next cars are half a minute behind me. And I could have pushed a bit harder to try and get after Zhou Guanyu, but I didn't want to throw the car in the gravel or worse, damage it and risk losing position. So I just turned everything down and brought the car home. It's gonna be P9, 2 more points. Come on, I will take that.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
They take the checkered flag then here in Imola, in what has been another outstanding Grand Prix. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Well, staying out of trouble was probably the most important factor here. With their pace and a decent strategy as well, I don't think the race was ever really in doubt.
Here come our winners now. A thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again.
Well, what a race. Many pit stops were had in that race by me there, but
So let's review the updated driver's standings.
wow, that's the end result then. Leclerc dominating that race. Alonso second overall in the weekend, but Ocon finished P2 at the end of that race. Wow, that is a topsy-turvy result if I ever saw one, but those are your weekend results there of who scored the most points. And I think Leclerc might just be the new championship leader as we now click on to the race results. Well, I'm hoping I click on to the race results. But you can see there, 2 points for us. I'm very happy. That moves me up to 4 points. There's the race result. Leclerc wins. Ocon gets second. Alonso third. That Alpine, I tell you what, they're having an incredible season so far. Then it's Bottas, Norris, Tsunoda, Zhou, myself, and Perez overtaking Vettel on the last lap. And we're going to move over to the standings momentarily, but I do believe Charles Leclerc now takes the championship lead by 12 points over Verstappen after Max's DNF. Russell third. Alonso moves into fourth after his second podium of this season. He's having a brilliant season. Second in Saudi Arabia and now third here. That's a nice little shot in the arm for Alpine, and you can see we're now up to 4 points after the 2 points we gained here. Zhou Guanyu also gaining 4 points from this race, and as a result of him finishing ahead of us, is ahead of us in the championship on countback. Wow, what a weekend that was. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more content from me. Until the next time, thank you so much for watching. That was incredible. That was fun. I really enjoyed that one. Until the next time, TTFN guys, ta-ta for now.